So everybody just keep in mind what kind of a child molesting sociopath you have to be. Israel just bombed the shit out of Lebanon. And Tucker and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Candace and Nick Fuentes and Bannon and Alex Jones and Benny Johnson and a whole bunch of others are going to get up there and, oh, the horror, the shame, and talk all this shit. That is not what America First is about. This is blah, 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 blah. Yes, the fuck it was. It always was. This is not what MAG is about. We voted for no more wars and we voted for the Epstein files. You knew damn well this shit was going to go down and the Epstein files weren't going to get opened, especially Tucker, because he's in the motherfuckers. Maybe not the ones that DOJ has, or maybe he is. Maybe that's why they're not releasing the other half. Because it may go into the military shit, the CIA, and more into the Iran-Contra shit that him and his daddy was a part of with Epstein and Trump and the Clintons. So we all know that the Epstein crap revolves around Israel. Of course, Tucker's going to have to get up there and rail against Israel and Epstein to keep his brand. He's doing the same thing the Kennedys did. Only Tucker, in order to not get killed, is going, I love Trump. He's my best friend. He must just be getting bad information. Whereas the Kennedys acted like their shit didn't stink. They were completely throwing everybody under the bus. That's why they got killed. Oh, so now Tucker and the CIA are staging the shit where they're watching his texts and I guess Trump's pretending to threaten him or some bullshit. All theater. All theater. That's just like Becky Berl telling me, oh, Bill Kinnear was stalking me at my work today. Garen goddamn T, the state patrol, have her under surveillance. The state police, Cousy, Jag, she's under surveillance. So's Kinnear. Bet you their surveillance proves that he was nowhere near her. That was shit she was talking to blow smoke up my ass to make herself look like she was a victim of his stalking. And in so doing, basically outed him as somebody who's stalking, and he works for Weinberger and Judge Hoare. Just like she snitched on her, that twin lady Dorothy. Oh, she works for Weinberger, she's stalking me, and Judge Hoare grants restraining orders against me, and she's the one doing the stalking. You just snitched, but in reality, Berl and her little friend from Cambrian Way were friends with Dorothy. They're Dorothy's co-gang stalkers, part of the gang stalking with her. So that means they all work for Hoare and Weinberger. So I'm just giving you some analogies and why you can see why anybody who featured whistleblowers, military dependent, oh, my family's military, and then probably a shill for the Goldwaters and the Weinbergers, and then feature some whistleblower who has helicopters going over, probably all staged. The guy making the fuel from whatever, plastics, I think. And then this YouTuber's like, oh, he's risking his life. You got to die for the cause. Like, I'm supposed to. We know that YouTuber is probably a shill for the military elite. she ain't no better than Berl. That's why I don't watch her no more. You trying to get me, tell me I have to die when I'm being used by multiple jurisdictions in an ongoing investigation? Really? But anyway, what Tucker, when he's pretending to be a victim of stalking or illegal surveillance by the CIA, he's just doing the same thing he trained Becky Berl to do. Tell her that Bill Kinnear's stalking you at work and stalking you on Church Street and walked in the bathroom on you when you were lived with them at the whatever apartment or whatever. She learned that shit from Tucker and his Iran-Contra CIA spooks, the Goldwaters and Weinbergers. She learned that her father, or who she said, she didn't say her father was military. Berl said she had military in her family, but she didn't specify who. Caton learned it from her father, and I don't know whether he learned it, whether it's something he's recently trained on and then trained her, but either way, he trained his dependent daughter, sophisticated CIA bullshit tactics to obstruct real spooks who are really trying to do their job into the criminal organization, and those criminals in the CIA who assassinated a sitting president, even though that sitting president was corrupt as fuck. So Tucker and Candace are besties. That means Candace is in on it too. And then they pretended to have that beef with Nick Fuentes. And all that shit between Candace and Ben Shapiro, more of the same crap. That was all staged, just like what they're doing with Trump. They're pretending to distance themselves from Trump so that they can keep carrying the torch. Now, Charlie Kirk, apparently he drew the line in the sand when he realized that all the shit was going down and he wasn't going to be a part of it anymore. He basically pulled a Kennedy. He's like, well, y'all went too far. Now you're even running scams with. He was the CEO of that organization and he didn't know about all that stuff. I find it hard. That's the whole point of a CEO. None of that shit could even be going on without his say-so. How does he not know where their money's coming from? And apparently it was coming from some political something or another who had some weird P.O. box at a Arizona, not a post office, but one of those like independent mailing services where you can go rent a box and get your mail, but it's not actually USPS. It's like Pack and Go, or even UPS. You can has boxes that are like mailbox. Like I have a post office box. I can go rent one from UPS, but it's not. It's an independent mailing thing. Of course, UPS is pretty much independent too. It's pretty much completely privatized. So anyway, it's all basically a way for them to salvage their MAGA ship that is sinking. They're trying to plug holes. And trying to make it look like they weren't responsible. They're not part of the iceberg that's sinking it, which is to have anything to do with Israel and Epstein. So they've got to completely distance themselves from Israel and Epstein, and that means they have to look like they're looking into what really happened with Charlie Kirk to make it look like they weren't part of that. With Cash Patel and Blondie and Gnome and the Gnomes. So that's the best way I can explain it to you. You'll see a lot of similarities when you watch your video and your audio and those texts with Berl and Caton. And I mention those two the most because I let them get away with it the longest. And I only let them get away with it for so long because they pretended to be agents of Bernie Sanders and Sarah George, along with their little friends, Michael and the security guard and Ranger Preston, and I needed to see what they were up to. And then because they thought they had me in the bag, they used the fucking bioweapon in that goddamn park. So it's going to be important that you start signaling to Tucker and Candace that you're onto them and that they are a part of the Israel First Epstein shit, so that the atrocities in the Middle East stop. Because as long as they think they've got you in the bag, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. Just like they released a bioweapon here in this park, because I was so good at my job and letting them think I was buying their bullshit, up to and including accusing Sarah George and Bernie Sanders of using PIs to run a half-assed honeypot and gaslight me, and made them think that I was really going to report Sarah George and the mayor to DOJ. I was going to file complaints with Pam Bondi. That I had them so convinced that they had me in the bag that they went and used a bioweapon. And once I called them out, of course they haven't stopped. They're still doing it. They think they've got everything under control with their bullshit. No trespass. They thought they had me killed when they no trespassed me and filed that stupid restraining order, and then they thought they were going to set me up to arrest me on that. But so there's you've got to have a happy medium. You've got to let them be comfortable enough and confident enough to do the stupid shit so that they identify themselves as part of the criminal organization, but you don't want them so comfortable that they're using WMDs and chemical warfare. And hell, they didn't just do it. They're not just doing it in the Middle East. They did it here. They're doing it here. All the drugs, they're bringing in. All the fentanyl, they're bringing in. So as long as nobody's, you called Tucker out once, but there needs to be a lot more of it. Or Israel's going to keep doing what they're doing over there. We got him. Tucker's going to got this handled. Candace and Tucker and Shapiro and Alex Jones, they got this covered. They've got Jimmy Dore in the bag. They've got everybody convinced over there. We're going to take this election. They got Ro Khanna in the bag. They got Thomas Massey in the bag. So you go on and you just go ahead, commit all the genocide you want, because ain't nobody going to. And at the end of the day, they really don't care if their name is associated